All right, central banks around the world are thinking of ways to combat a surging US dollar as global trade in commodity comes squarely into focus. To take us through what's going on more broadly, Pete McGuire joining us from XM. Pete, good to catch up with you again on a Monday morning. Interested to get your view of, well, what's actually taking your attention this week, because as far as the central banks are concerned, two in focus, I guess, with decisions coming from both the Bank of Japan and the ECB, where the expectation is it will raise rates for the first time in more than a decade.
Absolutely. Good morning, Andrew. Yeah, 25 basis points. Lagarde's got the finger on the trigger. So we're thinking that how that rolls forward into August and September. Do we see successive rises out of the ECB to contain that inflation story? They are behind the curve if you're looking at how aggressive Canada and the US are, and ourselves and New Zealand, so, and many other nations across the world. So yeah, it's certainly one of much interest. Bank of Japan still sitting on their hands a little bit, but the yen is approaching that 140 handle.
All right, so yeah, Bank of Japan then?
I think I'm just interested to see what they're doing as far as the inflation story, retail sales, and the overall themes coming out of Japan. And what's going on, we've got policymakers keeping a close eye on June CPI figures and the overall, I think, mood of the nation. It's still very much locked down from a tourism standpoint in summer. And I'm just sitting here observing, is 140 or is it 145 the line in the sand?
Pete, speaking of CPI, we've just had the latest read drop from New Zealand second quarter, sitting at 7.3% versus a year ago. That is higher than the expectation of 7.1%. What's that telling you about what's going on with the economy and where the RBNZ is likely to take its policy from here on?
Well, I would think you'd probably see a ratchet up from here, Andrew, as far as another rate rise or two in the next successive months. And it's a review probably October, November, if they've got it under control. So there's that I think is what's hitting me between the eyes. The Kiwi doesn't seem to be, it's like the Aussie, it's very much, range bound, if not dead, just sinking further and further. So at the present time, I'm just looking at what their central bank's prepared to do. Maybe they'll copy what the Bank of Canada did last week.
Well, you mentioned the Kiwi dollar, the Aussie, it's sitting around 67.8. Now, of course, we're seeing that continued strength with the greenback.
Absolutely, Andrew. So, yeah, US dollar is the one to be trading. All the traders, everyone's short pound, short yen, short euro. We've got euro parity, and that US dollar index sitting now at around that 108 handle. And we've got the meeting in about a week's time, a bit over a week. As far as the Fed, is it 75? Is it 100 basis points? Well, everyone's pretty much got that baked in. And the movement to the upside or the continuation as far as that US dollar index.
Yeah, obviously with that strength of the US dollar, and I mentioned there earlier just as far as the effect that's having on imported inflation, it's obviously to benefit as a result.
Yes, absolutely right. And it's a storybook. I think every trader needs to go back to business school and just have a look through your books and take on board what that means. So there's all the different phrases and those paragraphs come back to your mind, what that means to every trader. They need to be conscious as far as the fundamentals and, of course, what's happening across central banks and from a technical standpoint, inflation, importing inflation, stagflationary fears, all of those topics you need to be front of mind.
So, Pete, how far can the US dollar go, and what, I guess, are going to be the important inflection points where perhaps we'll see it begin to ease? And obviously that's also impacting other assets such as gold, which has continued to fall.
Yeah, well, gold's still sitting at that 1,700 handle, Andrew. There just doesn't seem to be enough upside there. It's at 1,703, 1,706 at the moment. So that they're very, very, it's got the wind kicked out of it. US dollar index, many traders are saying we're going to see a 112. That's the next line in the sand, a continuation, boost to the upside. And the Fed pretty much, all guns blazing, raising interest rates. And there are many people I'm hearing possibly even a 115. But when we're currently sitting at 108, I think 112 is probably the headline that I'm thinking of.
All right. And the pound, how are you seeing that at the moment? Of course, you've got the political turmoil in the UK. How significant has that been for the pound?
Well, you've got a 118 handle. I mean, it's probably, 115. Many traders are looking at that there's potential to get to that 115. I'm just looking at my notes here. We sent out a fairly comprehensive analysis. You would have got that over the weekend, what the pound's going through, where we're conscious as far as what's going on with data releases. We've got Tuesday unemployment reports. You've got CPI numbers Wednesday, PMIs flash on Friday, retail sales. So it's a big week for data drops for the pound, and I think you're probably going to be looking maybe a 117 by end of week. New prime ministers talking about who's going to fill the chair, and they've got their hands full, the Poms, Andrew.
Yeah, they have indeed. And Pete, locally, we do have a bit of commentary coming from the RBA with both the governor and deputy governor speaking this week, as well as the minutes from the last meeting.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm listening. With bated breath. I'm just trying to inhale what their rhetoric's going to be and what impact that's going to have. Naturally, they're looking in the vision mirror to see how we're performing over the last couple of months, and what their mood is as far as how aggressive they're going to be. The Aussie seems to be, as I said, the wind's knocked out of it. It's just not a currency that anyone's really spending a lot of time worrying about at the moment. There's other big movers out there. It may change in the next week or so, and it could come back to the Aussie and the Kiwi to have a little bit of a rally. So, yeah, just hold on to your hats. Could be an interesting ride.